and welcome to the Flame and Fiber podcast. My name is Barbara. You can find me as Diva S on Instagram and Ravelry. And the podcast has a Ravelry group called the Flame and Fiber Podcast Group. And there you will find show notes and information about our knit-alongs and information about the mini swap that you're invited to join and things like that. So they're lovely people in our group, and I would love if you would join. I want to welcome you if you are new to the podcast. Thank you so much for checking me out. I hope you enjoy what you see. And if you have watched before and have come back, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And once again, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate the comments and the messages and the notes. I really love hearing from you, and I really appreciate it. So thank you, everyone, so much. So it is Monday, August 14th, and I am feeling anxious, and I am not sure why. And I don't know why I'm telling you that, because I don't really have anything to say about it other than I'm sort of have these free-floating anxieties. I guess I'll tell you some stories at the end of the podcast that may explain it a little bit, but not really. It's not my normal thing, so kind of strange. Feels really strange. It is about noon, 12:30. I am drinking iced coffee. And I have a lot to talk about. I was writing notes this morning, and I have 3 pages. First, I want to show you, I'm wearing my Selgri. This is not the last one that I made. It's this beautiful yarn. I got it. Oops, sorry. I might cut that out. I usually cut those pictures out. I got the yarn at the Maryland Sheep and Wool, but the reason I'm wearing it is I'm testing out the Scotch Essential Wardrobe Tape Strips that were recommended by Peg. Thank you, Peg. I actually wore this this past week out to dinner. Dennis turned 65 on Thursday, and I picked up my sister from the airport on Thursday. If all goes well with editing, there was a cut there. Anyway, my sister is visiting my parents, and so she flew into Philadelphia. I live in southeastern Pennsylvania, and my parents are in State College, which is in central Pennsylvania. And so she was there, so I took Dennis and my sister out to dinner for his 65th birthday. I've been teasing him because he's been on Medicare since the beginning of the month. So I wore this with the tapes. The tapes worked great. Can't take me anywhere, though. I got a big blob of really, really dark fig sauce, which I had on my duck, which was delicious. And when I got up from the table, I had a big giant thing on my sweater. So this sweater soaked overnight, and I can see where the spot is, but I don't think anybody else can. And as I was putting it on this morning, I think it kind of soaked through to the back, so there's also a little shadowing in the back of the sweater. So this sweater will soon be soaking again. But, if you're not going to wear it, why make it? So anyway, so the tapes worked great. Thank you, Peg. So I highly recommend Scotch Wardrobe tapes if you have the same issue I do, which is that this neck is a little wide, and so my bra straps were, it was coming off from my bra straps. Now, it could be I just put my bra straps wide, but they're stuck. So anyway, I'm not going to adjust the sweater during this podcast, and we'll see how they do. But so far, so good. So thank you so much for the suggestion, Peg. I really, really appreciate it. So I'll just start with the knitting because I have 3 pages of notes, and what the heck. So my first finished object I do not have with me. It is my granddaughter Samantha turned 1 on Saturday. And so we were there yesterday to help her celebrate, and I gave her her sweater. But I'm putting her there, and she is the most adorable cutie pie you have ever seen. And so it looks great on her. This is beautiful yarn from Dog Star Knits. Thank you, Jake. That color of that yarn is, he calls it sangria. It was a joy to knit, let me tell you. Well, I've been knitting, so this is my first Selgri. I knitted a second one right after because I loved it so much, but I knit 2 sweaters, and I'm not a small person. in fingering weight. It was such a pleasure to knit something in worsted. Plus, of course, it's tiny. But the yarn was such a dream to knit with. Thank you, Jake. And this color is so gorgeous. It's kind of a raspberry, he was thinking amethyst when he was describing it, and he's named it sangria. And I love it. And I'm hoping it's a color that he has in his repertoire in case I want to make a sweater for myself. Because it was really lovely to knit. And that pattern is, oops, sorry. I had the bag for that up here, and so I didn't even have it in my notes. Oh, it's the Wallaby. It's the Wallaby by Georgie Hallam. And it goes up to like size 12. So these girls are going to be getting this again. And it just has this little eyelet detail across the yoke that's just charming. I was originally planning on making buttons all down, but I just got going and I'm knitting. And after the third buttonhole, I forgot that I was doing buttonholes. So Sammy's sweater has 3 buttons, which worked out great because I found a card of little silver hearts. And there were 3 in there, and it was gorgeous. So I used 2 skeins of the worsted, and I have this much left. And I love this color. I got a 3rd skein of this from Jake because I'm going to be combining this with the beautiful Ariel color that I made my KAL out of. I guess it's time to weave in the ends and block the KAL. I showed you this a while ago, but I love these 2 colors together, and I'm doing another KAL with these 2 colors, and this is going to be so wonderful. I will be the warmest woman all winter. Well, my plan, you know, I see people wearing cardigans that they kind of come down here, and I thought, why would anybody make a cardigan with a really low neck? Because I wear cardigans in the winter to keep warm. But then it occurred to me, I have some lovely yarn back here that I would love to make a sweater with, but I don't want it touching my skin. So I'll make a sweater with a low neckline so my long sleeve t-shirts and things will come up to here. And then I will wear a cowl. And I will be warm and encased in lovely hand knits. So that's going to be my plan. So anyway, thank you, Jake, for the beautiful yarn, Dog Star Knits. And everybody loved the sweater, and Sammy looked adorable in it, as you can see, or as you saw before. So that's my first finished object. I did finish my July socks on July 31st, which I must have been very close to finishing those, because I think I podcasted on the 31st. So I left that podcast and I worked to finish, and I'm not sure where I was, but I did this was an afterthought everything set of socks because I used a sock blank that I had dyed in my dye class last November, and I normally knit my socks 2 at a time on 1 circular needle. But the sock blank was a single sock blank, so I couldn't do it 2 at a time. I have done a sock blank from KALs Arts that I bought, but it was a double, and so I was able to do 2 at a time, my normal thing. But I was curious about the afterthought everything concept, and so that's what I did. So I knit a long tube, and then I cut it down. I had 1 cuff, and then I cut it down the middle, and I added a cuff to the other part, and then I put in toes, and then I put in heels, and I put the toes in last, because then I was sure that my socks would be the right length, because that's how I do it. My typical socks are top down, put in the heel, and then, you know, stick it up, put it on my foot to figure out where I want my toe to be. So the toe I got from Sock Architecture. Actually, I got the heel and the toe both from Sock Architecture. And in fact, they're the same heel. I mean, they're the same. The heel and the toe are the same, and it's this kind of star pattern. And then you just pull the last few stitches closed together, and so there's no Kitchener-ing. I was wondering, I'll be interested to see how this heel feels when I'm wearing it, because, there's always a little something there, when it doesn't usually matter in the toe because you don't have a lot of pressure on the front of your toe of your socks. But so I will let you know what I think about this, but I will not be making any more of these heels until I've worn this sock and I have an idea that this is going to work out. I love the look of it. I mean, I think it's great. And then there's the toe, which is the same. But until, well, it's the back of your foot. Until I actually wear this, sort of with real life warm, in the winter, I won't be making another one till I'm sure I like that. But anyway, I'm pretty happy with them, and I made them just in the nick of time. I mean, I finished them. I don't know why I'm taking these off the blocking because I don't have other socks to put on. So anyway, so I finished my July socks since I talked to you last. They were very, very close. So those are my two finished objects. I did not get a tiny sock made with that yarn, but I want to do that. Or maybe I'll make something else. Maybe I'll make a mitten. I'll make a sock. Stay with the tradition. But I do want to start thinking about knitting tiny things again. We're going to be going away at the end of this week. We'll be gone next week. And then Isabel's birthday, so I have to finish her sweater. And then September, and that's when I need to really buckle down and start thinking about my holiday knitting, which includes my tiny things, because I want to do it well. We'll talk about that. So my first work in progress is my sweater that I am knitting, Isabel. Isabel will be 4 in 2 weeks. Her birthday is 2 weeks after Sammy's to the day. And this is the North Peninsula by Gabrielle Dansknit. And I can't believe that's her last name. That's probably her business name. If not, that's really cool. But I'm sure it's her. Whatever. There are no pictures in this pattern. So this is a lovely pattern. It's supposed to have buttons, but Isabel has requested a zipper. So, but it has this beautiful cable down the front, and then I have a white zipper. I sent away for it. I have a white zipper with big plastic teeth. Can you see that? Big plastic teeth. So I think that will work nicely for her sweater. She's a big girl now. She wants a sweater. Her favorite sweater last year was she called it her old man sweater, and it had a zipper, and she loved it. But light blue was her favorite color, and Jake came through. She has approved this. He calls this one Blue Skies. And she said, this is perfect. She used the word perfect. She said the yarn was perfect. So now this pattern also has a beautiful cable down the center back. And I would love it if this sweater had that beautiful cable down the center back, but I wasn't in a position to knit that cable. I needed something easy to knit. And so I have the cables down the front, and my daughter assured me nobody would miss the cable down the back. Since there's no pictures on the pattern, you wouldn't even known there was a cable down the back if I hadn't told you. So anyway, this is all done except that instead of picking up and knitting a button band, I picked up and knit a 2-stitch I-cord that is going to be the edge of the sweater where the zipper goes. I had read that somewhere. And I had done the I-cord. Oh, I did it once, and I wasn't sure what size needle to do. I'd never really done it before. I wasn't. Anyway, this side was my third try, and it came out so neat. It's not very stretchy, and I thought, oh, that will work great. I'll do that. So I kept doing that, and I did the same thing on the other side, I thought, and put it in the bag and went about my business. And this morning I took it out and I sewed in all the ends, and I was going to block it after I showed it to you. And then I realized the other side is way bigger, way stretchier. So this I-cord, it looks a lot like all the other I-cords that I tried to do. This one, for some reason, came out not very stretchy, and I wasn't even able to replicate. See those kind of, that ridge of holes? I don't know how I did that either. Maybe it just has something to do with the two different sides of the sweater. I'm not sure. But when you hold these two sides together, you would think that this was not knit back and forth and have exactly the same number of stitches. See how much stretchier that is? So I think I'm going to block this. I'm going to soak it this afternoon and block it. But I went and started unpicking the my woven in ends on that tight I-cord. I would prefer to have both sides be tight like this, but I can't. I have made I-cords 4 times now on this sweater, and this is the only one that was tight like that. I don't know how to make it tight on the other side. I don't think. So I think I'm just going to make it loose, and so, well, I'm going to block it, and I'm going to see what happens. Actually, what I think I'll do is I'll block it, and then I will baste the zipper on it and see how it looks and if it works. But my guess is it's not going to work because the I-cord is so much stretchier on one side than the other. I've never done a zipper before. I think that may be perfectly obvious to you listening to me talk. I am glad to be trying it on a small sweater. And Isabel will love it no matter how it turns out. But of course I want it to look nice. So I'm going to block this tonight, and then tomorrow I am going to see what I can do in terms of that zipper. And with it the way it is. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to take that stiffer I-cord out and put in the long stretchy one, because that's the one I know I can do. But anyway, I'm really happy with the sweater. I think it's going to fit her great. The yarn is perfect, she said. And the color is beautiful. Light blue is her favorite color. I can take off my markers. And thank you, Jake, again. Hit the nail on the head. I mean, look at this beautiful yarn. Now, I had to break into the 3rd skein to do the I-cord. So you need the 3rd skein if you're going to do a button band. I needed it for the I-cord for the length that I made this. But I have quite a bit of this left. And since it's perfect, I probably will end up making Isabel a hat or something with it. But the cable turned out really nice. The sweater is beautiful. The yarn is perfect. Now, if I can get a zipper in it without making myself crazy or being unhappy with how it looks, that will be good. Plus, I have to do that in the next couple days if I'm going to have this sweater for Isabel's birthday, which is a whole nother story. So I I finished my July socks, so of course I have to cast on my August socks. And the grocery girls have a prompt every month, which I generally ignore. because they're not going to pick my thing anyway, because 47 million people are in that. So I don't worry about it. But this month's prompt is lace. They wanted lace socks, so I am doing Luli's Socks with Holes again. I like that one. It's easy and it's lacy. But this is the yarn I'm using. This yarn was from my yarn box. And it is Corriedale. It's called Corrie Sock by the Flying Goat Farms, which I have never used their stuff before. It's a fingering weight. And it is a 75-25, which is not my favorite thing. My colorway is called Red Flannel. So it's like one of those flannel shirts, black and white, black and red. Now, I would not have picked this color if I were picking, but it was from my yarn club. But in the end, I'm actually liking the way it's knitting up. I like red. So, you know, that's the serendipity of a yarn club. And I very, very rarely get rid of my color. That, you know, it's ridiculous, but I feel like it's a little bit like karma. You know, it's like fate. Fate assigned me that color, not some random person at the yarn box warehouse. I know it's ridiculous. But, so I rarely do it unless I really hate it, or unless, you know, there's a huge plea from somebody who really wants to trade. I seem to have a bit of a cough today. So anyway, here are my socks. These are the Socks with Holes in by Lee Christensen, who is Luli. She has a wonderful podcast. One of my favorites. So delightful. So I am doing these on a size 0. I decided I wanted to try my socks on a size 0 because I wanted a denser fabric. I'm still working on my formula for my socks. So my July socks were done on 0s, and I think I did 66 stitches. Like, I started with 72 and I went down to 66 and I did all this wacky stuff. They feel a little tight. I'm not sure what I'm doing with them. I mean, I'll be wearing them, but I ended up doing 72 stitches on a size 0, but it's lacy, so it's hard to tell. You know, I don't know that that's my formula necessarily, but my plan is when I get to the foot, when I get past the heel, I am going to decrease down to probably 68 or 66 stitches to try to tighten it up on the foot. I like a little bit of a tight foot, but I want that dense fabric. I don't want the fabric stretched, so I don't want to decrease too far down so that it just sits nicely with a little bit of negative ease. That's my goal. I have no idea if I can do this. My current plan is to put Vanilla is the New Black socks on these. I like the Vanilla is the New Black heel. I mean, we're going to put the heel on these. I like that heel. It feels roomy to me. So I'm going to put it on these socks, and then I'm going to decrease down a little bit to snug them up. And I have no idea what toe I'll do. I might do that star toe. I forget what it was called in the sock architecture book. But, so those are my August socks, and they will have holes in them. And, so my next new cast on, my socks are new cast on. I don't think I had cast on Isabel sweater, so that was a new cast on. And when I saw you last, and this is a new cast on. This is a new shawl out by Janine McCarty. She is the Yarn and You girl. She has a podcast, and she gave me this pattern. Isn't that sweet? Isn't that a great shawl? It's garter and not too much garter. Little garter, stripes, lace. Isn't that pretty? So she gave me this pattern, and she has given me a copy of the pattern for you. So I'm going to have a prompt and a thread, and if you would like to win a copy of this pattern, go to the Ravelry group, and I will have a prompt. I think it'll just be, you know, sort of what color combination would you use to make this shawl? And if you have a particular yarn you like, what would it be? She's a cutie. She has a podcast. She's a very perky and lovely young woman, and I think she's in the Pacific Northwest. And so I recommend her podcast, and this is a lovely shawl. Now, I will tell you that I started knitting on this, and I was sitting there, and I thought, now how does she, you know, let me look in the pattern and figure out how she does this asymmetrical triangle. You know, what's the mechanism for this asymmetrical triangle? Because it wasn't clicking with me what it was, because we start here. You start up here with the shawl, and usually with an asymmetrical triangle, I think you normally would start at a corner. So I'm looking through the whole pattern, trying to figure, no, these are in. And then I realized this picture's in perspective. It's a regular triangle. It's just we're looking at it from the side. I took drafting in high school. I know about perspective. I should have figured that out sooner, but I'll tell you, I spent 10 minutes reading this pattern, trying to figure out how it was going to be an asymmetrical triangle. It's not. It's a regular triangle shape, and that's just looking at it from the side. So anyway, this is the pattern that I am doing. The Yakisa. So I have this yarn that I got from Yarn Box many months ago. I think 2 years ago, almost, maybe 3. Pull out this yarn. I think I want to use it, and it turns out it's sport weight, and the pattern calls for a DK. So I put it back, and I pull out this yarn, and I start knitting on this red and gray yarn. And I am not feeling it. And finally I just said, you know, you're the boss of your knitting. You can do this in sport weight. It's no rule. I don't know why I'm coughing so much. And I apologize. Well, hopefully I edited that out. So, anyway, I went back to the 2 yarns. They came together in my yarn box. And they're from Delicious Yarns. And the Delicious Yarns, they're so cute. I don't know if they're still in business, because I think this was literally, I think I got this for September 2014. It's been in my stash for a long time. Delicious Yarns, and it comes up, and it's like a nutritional label. It is so cute. Can you see that? It says nutrition facts. Approximately 100 grams, 1 serving, 0 calories. Calories from fat, 0. Total yardage, 310. Anyway, pretty cute. So this is color green tea, and it's got a little bit of that blue in it, and then this is blueberry. And I got 2 skeins of the green tea and 1 of the blueberry in my Yarn Box package that month. And anyway, then I started knitting this in these 2 yarns, and I loved it. This is, well, I picked this up this morning and did this little green part right here. I just did a few rows this morning. The rest of it was, I sat down, I cast it on, and I didn't want to stop. It was so much fun to knit. And this little pattern, it's got this little pattern here, which is like purl 3 together, something, something, do something. I forget what the pattern is. Oh my gosh, it is so adorable, and it gives such a lovely texture to that panel. I really like it. And now I'm getting into the eyelets. So this is what I've done, and I've just started this eyelet row here. So that's where I am. And I'm loving the yarn together. I'm so glad I changed. And the pattern, I really like the pattern. It's really pretty. And this was such fun to knit. So I'm glad to have all the knitting done on the granddaughter's sweaters, so I can go back and start knitting this again, because it really made me smile to knit it. So I highly recommend this pattern. I think it's beautiful. And you can win one. So go to the prompt and go to the Ravelry thread. There'll be a thread there. I will put it up while I'm editing, so it'll be there. And I am so excited. And this yarn is so funny because when I had it sitting in my stash, it's looking a little brighter. When I had it sitting in my stash, I thought, this yarn is so bright. In fact, when I did my dye class in November, they said if you have yarn that you're not, that you would like to over dye, bring it and we can do that in the class. And I almost brought this yarn because I thought, it's too bright. And then I looked at it again and said, it's not so bright. And this morning I had this outside. I did my 3 rows outside. And it's cloudy and overcast. And the green is looking a little almost olivey. But I think in brighter light it's not so olivey. But it's not looking that olivey here. And it doesn't look that olivey in my stash. But it is not a super bright green like, So this is going to be a beautiful shawl. I'm very excited. And and I love the fabric in the sport weight. So I'm the boss of my knitting. I'm doing that on a size 8 needle. And it's really making a nice, lovely fabric. And I'm really liking it a lot. And I have this in my owl bag from Lorelei Erdo, who I will be talking about later. I love this bag. Okay, so that is my Yexa shawl. I have no idea why Yexa. I would have to look that up, and I didn't do that. By Janine McCarty and the Yarn and You Girl podcast. And last but not least, in my big bag, which you haven't seen in a long time, I made this bag. I worked on my Monte Rosa sweater. Finally, this is my Rhinebeck sweater. And I started this sweater back, I think I started it in March. And then we went on vacation. And then we got Pearl. And where I am, this is the Monte Rosa sweater by Isabel Kramer. And isn't that sweet? This is my Rhinebeck sweater. And when we got Pearl, where I was when we got Pearl, I'm at a stage where you need 3 charts for every row. Because you have a pattern on each side of the front, and you have cables down the back. So here is my Monte Rosa. I have not gotten very far. My little hippopotamus, isn't he cute? Where's my, yeah, I think I moved the, this is my indicator that what's the front and what's the back, but it's pretty easy to figure that out now. I mean the right side and the wrong side. So this is where I was. I think. No. When I picked this up, I had only done 1 row after casting on the extra stitches here. So I have literally done an inch. I've done an inch. Who am I kidding? Oh, I've done all this. No, I haven't. I've done an inch. I need to put a progress keeper in. But when I picked it up, I had just cast on and maybe purled the row or whatever. So that's how much I've done, really. But it was nice to get back to it, I have to say. And I was enjoying knitting it. But then I had to go back to the kids' sweaters. And but this is my Monte Rosa. The yarn is Fiber Spates DK in the dark aqua color. I do have the tag. And this is Vivacious DK, Vivacious DK, 100% super mosh merino wool color Deep Aqua 807. I don't know if you can see that. Certainly can't see it if you're on a phone. But anyway, so I have gotten back to my Monte Rosa. I'm very excited. So this is my Rhinebeck sweater. And we are in the middle. Oh no. Starting tomorrow, the official start date is tomorrow, but since whips are allowed, I've been feeling like we're all in the middle of it, is our Rhinebeck, Spirit of Rhinebeck knit along that I'm doing with Sharon from the Moms with Yarn podcast. And this is for everyone to make their Rhinebeck sweater. Everybody should have a Rhinebeck sweater. Even if you can't go to Rhinebeck, every knitter wants to go to Rhinebeck, I think. And so you can, you know, go in spirit. So everyone is welcome to make a Rhinebeck sweater. Everybody should have a Rhinebeck sweater, I think. And so the Spirit of Rhinebeck is the knit along I'm doing with Sharon. So you can, whips are allowed. It just needs to be an adult size sweater. And come and join us knitting our sweaters for Rhinebeck, whether we're going or not. You can still wear them Rhinebeck weekend, even if you aren't able to go. But I will be wearing mine, I am sure. And so there's a chatter thread in my on the Ravelry group, and I will open a finished objects thread when I put the giveaway thread up too. I'll put the finished objects thread, even though you can't finish anything before tomorrow. And you know, you shouldn't just be putting the buttons on, I think, for a work in progress, but you know, I'm not your mother. You do what you think is appropriate. But because whips are allowed, because I try to make the rules so that my sweater qualifies, even though I don't get any prizes. But you can obviously double dip. There are lots of sweater knit alongs going on, and of course you can double dip in the Moms with Yarn podcast thread with Sharon, and come and join us, because oh my gosh, I'm so excited about knitting sweaters. The other thing I'm excited about sweater knitting is I finished my, it's kind of blown out. I finished my singles for my, this is a combination of, this is a 2-ply. 1 ply is Targhee and the other ply is Rambouillet, and it turned out so beautiful. I don't know if it's hard to, I don't know if you can see it very well. It is not very tightly plied. I haven't washed this yet, so I'm not sure how it's going to end up. It's very balanced now, which makes me think it may be a tad underplied. So I'm going to wash it and see what it looks like. See if it feels underplied to me. I can go back and put a little more twist in there if I want to. But my plan is to combine this with this, which is the other yarn I spun during Tour de Fleece. And this is going to be a breathing space. So the main color will be the cream, because I have more of this. I have, this is, I think this is 8 ounces. 2 super full bobbins and plied together. And I happen to have my scale right here. Exactly 200 grams. So it's not 8 ounces. So this, I think this fiber was mislabeled, because these braids were labeled as 8 ounces and they weren't. They were 200 grams. And 200 grams is not 8 ounces. So maybe I should let her know that she should just say 200 grams, because I would have bought them the same and they were reasonably priced, but they weren't 8 ounces. They were 200 grams. And that's what this is, 200 grams, because I did split them pretty carefully. But so I plied this the other night, and I skeined it up last night. And I'm pretty happy with it, although I'm a little concerned it might be slightly underplayed because it is so balanced. Seems to me before you wash it, it shouldn't be quite so balanced because it makes me think that, but it feels great and I'm really happy with it. So that's my spinning. And I have the other half of this. This is only one half. This came out to 500 yards. So this is DK, I guess. Must be like a DK because I got 200 grams. I got 500 yards. That's 250. That's a DK indicator, I think. But it looks like it matches the sweater. So I'm going to have to do some math because I think the breathing space is a fingering weight sweater. So I'll have to do some math. But and I have to wash this again and make sure that this raspberry color, it's oxblood. This is Frabjous Fibers, Silky Cashmerino fiber in the oxblood colorway. And I need to make sure that this is color fast before I match it up with this in a striped sweater. Because that will make me sad, for sure. But I can do that, and I will do that. I'm sure I can do that. So I have lots of goodies to talk about. First of all, I got the sweetest little birds from Diane for my granddaughter's advent calendar that I'm going to make them. Aren't these sweet? Diane did this. We have a Tiny Things knit along. It's a year-long knit along, and their price is quarterly. And she had posted these little birds. Now I have a crochet blanket that I haven't worked on in quite a while. That, you know, but that's the extent of my crocheting. So I asked her if these were easy to make, and she sent me these. Aren't they adorable? So there will be a bird in the advent calendar for each of the daughters, and they even have a little tiny bead eye, and then one for me for my tree. So I guess the blue will be for Isabel, and maybe the purple for Sammy, and then I get this one. That was such a sweet thing. These are so adorable, and you can see more of these in the Knit Tiny Things thread. Oh, I should take pictures of these and put it in, unless Diane did. I don't think she did, because these are unless these are the ones that she made. I'm not sure. And put them in the thread. So the idea of the Knit Tiny Things knit along is I want to make an advent calendar for my granddaughters, and ornaments for the tree. Last year was the first time we had a tree in decades. And so I need ornaments for my tree. So I made some ornaments last year. I've been working on little elves. I don't know if you can see them up there, made with champagne corks. I need to do more of those. And I want to knit more things for the Advent. And thank you so much, Diane. These are so cute. Unbelievably cute. So I'm really tickled with that. I feel like I am missing... I'm missing some goodies. I got my yarn box, sock yarn. I don't see that. I'm crinkling a little bit. Well, that's all right. I have enough goodies to show you, and I will show you those. Where did they go? I also bought a beautiful skein of yarn. I think I must have them downstairs. So I will show you those on the next podcast, although I might have some things. I might be buying something in between then, but I still have other things to show you. But I will save those. So I subscribed to Row 1, which sends you these little 5 gram skeins. And I tried to cancel my subscription and I didn't manage to do it in time, so I got one more month before my subscription ended. Because if I were doing my mitered square blanket, which uses 5 grams for the squares, I might keep doing this because these are really adorable. The colors are great, but I don't think I want to do the mitered square, and I'm not sure how much on my stripe blanket these would give me. And the other thing is that part of the point is to be able to get an idea about the yarn, and I'm not sure if crocheting would tell me what I wanted to know about the yarn, but it might. The yarn dyer this month is Evil Little Goat. Now, if you watch the Naughty Knitwits, you have heard of Evil Little Goat because she is one of their favorite dyers these days. So these are all from the Evil Little Goat. So that was fun to get that. And so I was happy to have this last one. And so whoever my mini swap partner is may get some Evil Little Goat. And my holiday minis swap partner, which I will talk about after I show you the rest of my goodies. So anyway, you get a little candy, and you get a progress keeper or a stitch marker and those. And so that's nice. But that's my last month. I won't be getting any more of those unless I, suddenly decide I'm going to go back to my mitered square blanket. And not last actually. So, Aggie DiCarlo is a member of our group. Lovely, lovely lady who has taken the plunge and opened an Etsy shop, and she's making bags. And she is Aggie DiCarlo Knits on Instagram. And this is her card. I'm not sure how much you can see there. I will put a link to her Etsy shop in the show notes. And she had shown some of her bags on Instagram, so I went to her Etsy shop, and I have been feeling like I wanted some notions pouches. I have a lot of bags, but I have one sort of nice size notions pouch, and then I have a couple of little tiny ones, and I really do like the little tiny ones to just stash a few things in the bag, but I was feeling like I needed another notions pouch, and so I ordered this. And elephants are such wonderful creatures. I mean, I really love it. It was so amazing to be in Africa and actually see them in the wild, and it was amazing. And so when I saw this, I'm like, elephants, they're mine. These elephants are mine. And so I ordered this, and it had free shipping. And it was under $10. It was crazy. I don't know. She may not be able to keep those prices down like that because I don't know how she's going to make a living doing that. But isn't that cute? It says Aggie's Bags. Aggie's Bags. So cute. So anyway, so this is what I ordered. And I love it. It's just what I wanted. And it'll be a great size because I have 2 of those big square wooden needle gauges, and this is the perfect size for that. It will fit in there, and then lots of other stuff besides. So I was really tickled with this. This is what I was hoping to get, and look how cute those elephants are. And included in my package was a lovely hand knit scrubby. I told Dennis he couldn't have it until I showed it on the podcast. It is beautiful, and it will be a great scrubby. I don't know anything about this Red Heart Scrubby Tropical. So Red Heart Scrubby, I guess Red Heart makes a scrubby. I guess the yarn hoarder is talking about crocheting scrubbies. Anyway, this is a lovely scrubby that she sent me as a gift. Wasn't that sweet? She's such a doll. What a nice lady. So anyway, this is going in the kitchen for me and Dennis to use. And then she's even sweeter than that because she also included a project bag. Isn't this beautiful? And I was so tempted to keep it because she said I could, but I have so many bags. But I was very tempted to keep it because I love this color combination. Pink and orange together really is grabbing me. You know me, orange these days, orange and yellow, orange and pink are really grabbing me. You can see from the colors that I've been knitting in the past few episodes. Isn't this beautiful? So anyway, it has a lovely handle and an orange zipper and a beautiful aqua, greenish aqua inside, and her lovely, I think that's so cute, Aggie's bags. So this was a gift for either me or to give away in the podcast, and I am going to be giving this away because I have so many bags. But it is pretty. And this has a little bit of a cushy lining, you know. It must have like that quilt interface or something. So this is really, you know, it's not stiff by any means. It's a nice box bag. Oops, her card just fell out. I'll put it back in. But it sits up. You can't see that, but it's sitting up. So it's a sock bag size, I think. One skein, maybe two on a stretch, but it's really for one skein project, I think, a sock bag. And it's got this beautiful butterfly to match the butterflies on the zipper. Thank you so much, Aggie. That was so sweet. And this is really beautiful. So this is going to be a prize for the Knit Tiny Things Knit Along in September. This will be the prize. So get your little tiny things in the thread so you can win this, because I'll be drawing from the thread. We only have one thread. It's a chat/finished objects thread, and we draw out of it once a quarter. And so thank you so much, Aggie. I really do love this. I may have to order myself one. Now that I've told you you could have this one, I guess that's how it's going to be. And the last thing is not actually for me. Dennis and I are going away. Right now, we're scheduled to go away on Thursday. I'm maybe rethinking that, but right now we're scheduled to go away on Thursday, and we'll be gone over a week. We're doing this. If you watch the Fiberista Files podcast with Heather, she dyes yarn, Highland Handmaids, and she lives in Maine. And last year in the summertime, she did a cruise on this schooner off of the coast of Maine, and she was having a knit week. It was like a special sailing for knitting, and she was, I think last year she was teaching spinning and for this week. But that week that she did last year was right around Father's Day, which was my father-in-law's 99th birthday, and we were throwing him a big party for his 99th birthday. Well, it turns out this year they were doing the same thing, only this was going to be dyeing, which was really interesting to me, but it was the week right before Father's Day again. And of course we were having a big party for my father-in-law because now he's 100. So both times I could not do the knitting with Heather or the fiber-related sailing with Heather. The ship is called the J&E Riggins, I think. I will put a link to their website. I think it's called Maine. I forget. I'm going to stop talking. Excuse me. MaineWindjammer.com, something like that. Now I'm putting it on the screen because now that I'm saying it out loud. But anyway, it looked like so much fun, and Dennis is interested in sailing. You know, when we win the lottery, he's planning on buying a sailing boat and taking us out, you know, whatever, all around the world if I can figure out how to help him. So he's very interested in sailing. And this week coming up is a sailing called Maine Cooking Sail, Maine Cooking Cruise or something like that. The woman, it's a couple who run this boat, the ship. The husband, you know, was in charge of sailing, and the wife is a cook, and she has several cookbooks out. So apparently the food is supposed to be fabulous, and this one is sort of focusing on the food, which, you know, is Dennis's thing. Which I am so happy about. And so we are going away. He turned 65. We just celebrated our 25th anniversary. And so we're going to be doing this 4-day cruise. Should be fun. So we get on the boat ship on Sunday night around 6. And we get off of it around noon on Thursday. So it should be a lot of fun. It's going to be cool, though. I'll need to wear my hand knits. And right now, it's not looking like it's going to be rainy up there. So that's good. So I think we'll be cool and maybe dry. So anyway, my plan is to knit. So I will be taking many projects. And so we're going to be doing this trip. And I'm very excited about the trip. Except we were a little late booking the kennel for the dogs. And so our current plan is to go up Thursday and come back a week Friday. So we'll be gone a little over a week. And the kennel is fine with taking our dogs, except on Saturday night, the 19th. Yeah. So we really like this kennel. Anyway, so we have them booked in Thursday and Friday to be picked up on Saturday and returned back to the kennel on Sunday morning until we pick them up on Friday. This is causing me stress because I realized when I was trying to think, who do I have close by where I live who I can ask to go pick up my dogs at the kennel, keep them overnight, and bring them back in the morning. And there isn't anybody near me who I feel comfortable doing that with. Well, and she's a puppy anyway. So I called my sister-in-law, Kim, Dennis's sister. She lives about an hour from me, but she often comes and stays overnight at her parents, who are about 10 minutes from me. Typically, we would if we just had Dasha, she would have stayed with my in-laws, and that would have been fine. But my mother-in-law is 86, my father-in-law is 100, and they cannot deal with this puppy. So I asked her if she could do this for me, and she said, "Oh, I'd be happy to, but I think Fred's planning on having a big dinner." Fred is her husband. He's family dinner, his mother's coming and all this stuff, he likes to cook and kind of makes it a big deal. So turns out, of course, it was that night. To make a long story short, the current plan is my in-laws are going to pick the dogs up from the kennel and bring them to the house. My sister-in-law will be coming later in the evening after the dinner. She has to come back this way anyway to drop off her stepson who's living out here. And then she's going to sleep over at our house on Saturday night and take the dogs in on Sunday morning. But this is causing me stress. I think this is why I'm feeling stressed, because that's a terrible plan. I mean, it's the only one we could come up with, but in the past, other kennels that we've taken our dogs to, they would have said, "Oh, there's a nice dog staying here that gets along with other dogs," and would have taken one of the dogs into their house, and that would have freed up a space. I mean, I'm not suggesting they should take our dogs in because, a new puppy. But anyway, so I'm a little stressed about this. We are on the wait list for Saturday night. I'm hoping somebody cancels and that the dogs can just stay. But in the meanwhile, I am prepared, and I had asked Lorelei Erdo, who has a lovely podcast. I like it. It used to be called Knits and Beads, but she's just changed the name to Handmade by Lorelei. I went and looked it up. Her last podcast, she called it Handmade by Lorelei, because not only is she a knitter, she is also a jewelry designer. And if you follow her on Instagram, she has beautiful jewelry, very bohemian style, and which is the same style as my sister-in-law. Although a lot of her Lorelei's stuff is really bold, and my sister-in-law doesn't wear too big of stuff, so I'm hoping these aren't too big. But so I messaged her and said, I didn't see anything in her Etsy shop that was exactly right, and I messaged her and asked her if she could make me something for my sister-in-law, so she did. So this is my thank you gift for my sister-in-law. It's some earrings. I love this sort of steampunk boho. Can you see this? I'm hoping they're not too big for her. I like bold earrings for sure. I hope they're not too big for her. I'm not sure. And then they go with this beautiful, necklace. So these are the thank you gifts that I got my sister-in-law for all the pain in the neck trouble of dealing with our dogs, which I really appreciate. And this is the necklace. Isn't this pretty? So anyway, thank you, Lorelei, for making me such a beautiful thank you gift for my sister-in-law, who will be saving my vacation. She also, although she taped it with washi tape, I'm like, I want to look at it. So I had to open it. But, where my Erdo? Beautiful jewelry. If you have any need for jewelry, I highly recommend her stuff. They're just gorgeous, very well made, beautiful. She was very kind to just, I was like, I just need something. And she did good. So anyway, so that's the story of my dogs and possibly the source of my anxiety. I'm not sure. We don't get on the boat until Sunday at 6. It's probably at least a 12-hour drive. So there's no way for us to drop the dogs off on Sunday and get up there. But we may end up doing something different. I have booked us in a hotel for 2 nights in Rockville, which is where the boat leaves from, just to do some exploring, because I have never really been to the coast of Maine. I've skied in Sunday River once many years ago and on New Year's, and so you don't see much driving up there because it was dark and skiing. Oh, I'm not supposed to touch this. So far I'm good. Haha. Anyway, I was interested in seeing more of Maine, but it occurred to me today that we could stay home till Saturday, and then we would just need the in-laws to come and let the dogs out until my sister-in-law came Saturday, and then she takes them on Sunday. So we may change what we do and not take those extra days and make it a little easier on everybody. I already paid a deposit, which I will lose if I change my mind. But I don't know if it's causing me anxiety, and I'm not sure that's what it is. But that's what's going on. It's taken a little bit of the fun out of the anticipation of this trip, I have to say, worrying about the dogs. So that's our own fault. We didn't book the kennels soon enough. So, and it's possible that Saturday night will open up and the dogs can stay and everything will be fine. It seems just weird to me that they wouldn't be able to accommodate them for that one night, figure something out. So that's a little disappointing, but it's a business, Anyway, so that's kind of all. I have a couple of yarns that I can show you next week. And if we do go on Thursday, I'll have more, because I know there's a yarn shop in Rockville, which I plan to check out on Saturday if we're there. So that will be fun. Gail had asked, since this is our 25th anniversary trip, Gail had asked in notes to, what's the story about how you met Dennis, and, tell us about your love story, which, so Dennis is my brother's best friend. So that's how I met Dennis. My younger brother and Dennis have been friends for a lot of years. And I had seen him a couple of times. I had actually spent a weekend with a bunch of people, and he was one of the people a few years before. But we really got together. And my brother had lived in my mother's, there's an apartment in my parents' basement. And my brother had lived there for a number of years. And so Denny had been a regular visitor to their house to visit my brother. And when my kids were little, they used to go and spend a week with my parents in the summertime. And so my kids knew Dennis. They call him Denny. And met him long before I did. So back in 91, my brother got married, and Denny was his best man. And so we spent some time during this whole wedding party. It was like a weekend long thing. They got married the weekend of Memorial Day. And so it was quite the big event, and we spent quite a bit of time together. And between the first time I met him, where I talked my brother out of going skiing with him because I thought it would be, ridiculous and cold, and why would you want to do that? Between that, which was, 5 years earlier or more, and my brother's wedding, I had become a skier. So I apologized to Denny for talking Tim out of going skiing with him. And we started talking about skiing and talked about skiing, maybe skiing together or something. And so anyway, we had a lovely weekend, and I got to know him a little bit there. And the funny story out of that weekend was we were all sitting around on my parents' porch, and at a casual time during the wedding, I'm not sure exactly when. And my daughter, who was 11 at the time, turned to Dennis and said, "Hey, Denny, why don't you marry my mom?" And, we didn't know each other very well. And so Dennis said, "Well, she hasn't asked me." So that's the story. So I gave him my phone number that weekend, unasked. I just, he was getting in his car. I'm like, seriously, this guy's getting in the car and he didn't ask for my phone number. I can't believe it. So I gave him my phone number and went and stuck it in his face and said, "Here, take my number in case we want to go skiing sometime." This was in May. And he's not a phone guy, and he wasn't a confident guy at the time. It took him 2 weeks to call me. Yeah, 2 weeks. But I didn't hold that against him. And so I went out with him. And the rest is history. So that was 1991, Memorial Day. And he and I got married on the 4th of July on 1992. So that's the story. And he had a huge influence on my daughter, who suggested that he marry me. And because he's very interested in history and all kinds of stuff. He's really a Renaissance man, I think. He's interested in an amazing number of things, and he's a really smart guy, and he remembers all kinds of stuff. And when she was growing up, we used to we used to sit and talk about historical events. The First Crusades against the Cathars in southern France and things like that at the dinner table. And my daughter Christy is now teaching history at the college level because she's a historian and crazy interested in all these things. And she credits Dennis with her interest in history, for sure. She's a medievalist, And she credits him completely for turning her on to history and medieval history. And so he's been a wonderful person in our lives. And so we're very lucky. We're very lucky. So that, Gail, that's the story. That's how I ended up with Dennis. So I feel very lucky. Very lucky. And 25 years later, here we are. Having a stressful vacation to celebrate. Well, the good thing is, even if we end up leaving on Thursday and, having to do this whole transfer thing, by the time we get on the ship, it will all be solved and over. So we will be on land, be available by phone to help coordinate and make sure it all goes. So by the time we get on the boat, we won't have to worry about it anymore. It will all be solved because we'll get on the boat on Sunday and it's Saturday night that they can't take the dogs. So anyway, it will be fine. It will be fine. I just need to knit more and I'll feel better. I'll just knit and it'll all be good. So that's it. I will find those 2 skeins of yarn that don't seem to be around me and show them to you in the next podcast. And if all goes calmly and well, I will have more yarn because I will stop at the yarn shop in Rockville, I think, Maine, on the coast of Maine. And I'm sure I'll find something. So, I'm getting ready to sign off, but I can't sign off because I got things to talk about. I did talk about the Spirit of Rhinebeck knit along. So please join us with me, with Sharon and the Moms with Yarn, and knit your sweater. And it starts tomorrow. So by the time you see this, well, you should have already, whips allowed. So go for it. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is I'm involved, and because I'm involved, I've involved you guys too in a mini Advent Christmas swap. And I put it on Instagram, and there's a thread about it in the Flame and Fiber Podcast Ravelry group. 8 or 9 different podcasters are, we're all in this together with our people, anybody who's interested. I'm very, last year my Advent didn't go as I had kind of hoped, and I'm working on my Advent this year, so I'm happier with it. And so one thing I did was I did sign up for the Fiber Nymphs Advent minis. So I'm getting that. So that's a sort of commercial Advent that I already organized, and I double checked with her that everything is wrapped like a surprise, and she said it was, which is really important to me. So I did that. So I signed up for that. She had, discount pre-signs, and so I did that to take care of it. But then later, this group of podcasters, we've gotten together and we are going to all sort of help sponsor a Advent mini swap. So we're each going to make an Advent package, 24 minis, and you can decide if you want to have a big skein for Christmas Day or not. And it doesn't have to be Christmas. It can be any holiday, and obviously. And so we're putting together Advent packages, and we're going to be assigned a partner. So go to the thread. There are some rules. They want the mini skeins to be between 5 and 7 grams, I think, which my row 1 minis count. For a few of the days, you can put a little something as the gift instead of the mini. The main thing are the minis, but you can, put a little notion or a stitch marker or a progress keeper, some small thing for a few of the days. And, they're looking for yarns that you've used. They're looking for indie dyers for the most part, although you can use some commercial yarns. And anyway, the rules are in there. And the woman who organized it has put together a Google Doc, which was originally not working in my thread, but it is now. So if you want to sign up with the Google Doc, it'll put your information in there, answers a few questions, and on September 15th, they're going to match people up. And so you may be matched with somebody who's not a viewer of this podcast, but watches a different podcast and comes through a different podcaster's thread. But it should be really nice. And so you'll have a little present to open every day for Advent. So that would be fun. And I know a few people are interested and have already signed up, and I hope, so check out the thread, see if you're interested in something like that. It's going to be among a lot more people than just the people in our group. But so you may meet somebody who doesn't even watch this podcast, which would be, it's always fun to meet new people. So anyway, check out the thread, 24 mini skeins of Christmas, or I forget what we're calling it. But check it out. I put it down there. I looked it up because that's really lame. But anyway, it's a lot of fun. I've already signed myself up, and I hope those of you who are interested in having an Advent will sign up, and maybe we'll be matched. Who knows who we'll get. But I'm not doing the matching. And so we'll have a lovely little surprise at Christmas, in December, which, as you know, I'm interested in. So that's fun. So anyway, I hope you have lots and lots of time to do the crafting that brings you joy. And I hope I haven't forgotten anything. Bye.